got to say something. Lightweight, step at the side when we come in. Feel it in your chest, the syllables get pumping. People on the street get panic and start running. Words on loose leaf sheet, complete coming. I jump on my mind, I summon the rhyme I'm dumping. Healing the blind, I promise to let the sun in. Sick of the dark ways, we march to the drumming. Jump when they tell us that they want to see jumping. Dad, I want to see some fist pumping. List something, take back what's yours. Say something that you know they might attack you for. Cause I'm sick of being treated like I had before. Like a stupid standing for what I'm standing for. Like this war's really just a different brand of war. Like it doesn't cater to rich.
All right, good evening, everybody. This is Charlie McGrath, Wide Awake News Radio. It is the third day of October. What do we got here? It's Wednesday, and a good program lineup for you guys tonight. You know, I know a lot of folks are going to be, I'm not even going to get into it. I talked to Eric Lovely a little bit about it via texting before the program, asking him if he had the wherewithal to watch this debate debacle that'll be going on tonight. And he assured me that he would rather pluck out his eyes and fill his ears with cement than tune in to that debate going on in Colorado. I probably will watch it after the program tonight on a rebroadcast, just because it's like I said last night when Bob was on the program, that even though I know it's a farce, I think in order to speak to it, in order to talk about it and see what kind of propaganda is being pushed our way, what kind of momentum is being built in the lexicon. Are we going to be pushing for an immediate war after these elections? Are we going to be being edged into a financial crisis before or after these elections? And we can always tell what's coming next, usually, I should say, not always, but usually, by how the propagandists start to spin things and start to frame the debate, frame the crisis in some cases. So I'm sure more than likely we'll touch on this topic tonight, tomorrow night. But tonight we have the RadChick starting out for the first hour, and she sent me some very, very troubling information before the program tonight, and so I have a hunch I know what this first hour is going to entail. We're going to start off by talking about the sinkhole in Louisiana and what Christina has surmised. It sounds like that she's done quite a bit of research on this, and she's going to paint a pretty a very informative but also very terrifying scenario that may be unfolding. So if you're not in the chat room and you want to join the folks in chat, wideawakenews.com is the website. Click on the radio microphone, and you can join the folks in chat. Like I said, first hour is Christina Consolo, the RadChick, also known as the RadChick. And hour number 2, we're going to have Freeman Burt. You guys remember him. He was on about a month ago, the individual who had the courage to go through Denver International Airport and film the abusive nature of these so-called law enforcement officials who basically arrested him for doing absolutely nothing. He is going to come on tonight and tell us, we're not really going to get into that story too much, but some of the efforts he is doing to try to help people stand up for their own individual freedom. All right, let's get this thing rolling, because I know Christina has got a bunch of information she wants to share with us tonight. So, Christina Consolo, thank you very much for once again joining us on Wide Awake News Radio.
Thanks for having me here.
Oh, you're so welcome.
We're gonna spin things from the geological sense, I guess, the October surprise 2012 style.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, can I just read this giant paragraph you sent me earlier on some things that you've been following?
Sure.
Okay, here it goes. It goes, "Hey, Charlie," that's me. Just a little update for tonight. I started noticing 2 months ago rad levels going up without relation to weather. I found 30 times this happened since June related to earthquakes. Around this time, I learned of the Louisiana sinkhole and the fact radioactive material had been stored all over these salt caverns. The more I started digging into it, the more I realized that this may be related to the BP disaster. the ground in the Gulf seems to be sinking, and the sinkhole in Louisiana is just a symptom. I think this is what the powers that be are planning for, and that is what the U.S. And add to this, the U.S. Army started Mission Assumption October 1st. Just north of the area, of course, is the New Madrid Fault. If that area is sinking, which it appears to be for at least 80 miles, possibly more, the pressure could make fault go off and or rupture the continent of 50-plus salt domes storing munitions, mustard gas, radioactive materials, a nuclear, biological, chemical room. 700 million barrels are also stored, I'm assuming of oil, are stored from the strategic reserve, blah, blah, through Texas. So, I mean, that was the gist of it. And it went on with some more scary things that are stored underground in that region. But let's get right into this. The first thing I want to pick your brain about is these rad levels. Typically they're weather related, and you're finding something pretty spooky in the data.
Well, I think I sent you a link to one of the graphs for Kentucky, just showing the overall increase in the rad levels east of the New Madrid Fault Zone over the past couple of months. And it was something that I just kind of stumbled across, and I started noticing this correlation to earthquakes. So I put everything into an email and I sent it off to some people. And at that time, one of them was Lorraine Murray, who's a pretty well-known conspiracy theorist, and she's been all over Fukushima and all over a lot of the government involvement and false flags and things like that. And she said that she felt at that time, at least, that with a huge point source like Fukushima, that it was probably coming from there. But the thing is, it didn't correspond to any of the weather patterns, and I've been watching this fallout situation, and I studied everything that I could about the atmospheric testing and what the civil defense learned from the atmospheric testing and how radiation travels in the air and how it is brought down to the ground by precipitation and things like that. But these rad level spikes weren't happening in association with the jet stream or the tropopause or any rain or snow or anything like that. They were occurring around the time of earthquakes, and they were small ones. Some were just in the range of 2 to 3, but I started following this, and the more I paid attention to that, the more I saw this correlation. So my initial theory was that some of these radiation spikes, I mean, I agree that some of it is coming from Fukushima, but some of it's also coming out of the ground. So the question is, why would it be happening now? Why would we be seeing this happen? And if you think about, if you have a big puddle of water and you lay a plastic sheet over the top of it, you're going to have bubbles. Right. And if you step on the bottom of that, you're going to push those bubbles up, and it almost looks like that's what's happening. A couple other indications of that would be the sinking that's going on in Louisiana. I mean, this started out at one location. Texas Brine had said that they nicked the edge of a salt dome when they were drilling a year ago, and they warned that there might be some instability in this cavern. But just over the last few days, what we've learned is that cavern is actually leaking from underneath. So something's either eaten away the salt or it's destabilized along the bottom. And, all these aquifers, everything is connected underground. And then we've kind of enhanced that effect by all the fracking that we've done everywhere, where we've drilled channels into the ground to tap off the gas from these reserves. And I mean, these extend all the way up, into New England and Michigan. But a few other things that I started noticing is it's kind of unusual to see tritium leaks coming from nuke plants. There was a pretty famous case about 15 years ago from the Vermont Yankee plant, and there was all kinds of drama that came out of this because it ended up being a court case, and some of the executives from the plant lied about there being leaks underground from pipes, and it turned out that they perjured themselves on the stand, and then they went to jail for that. But aside from that point, there were 3 plants in the United States, one in Louisiana, just north in Baton Rouge, called Riverbends.
Right.
Was reporting a huge increase in tritium being measured in the wells along the property of this nuke plant. So their pipes are leaking underground, and so are a couple other plants, Surrey and one other, I don't recall the name at this time. So that's an indication that there might be some destabilization of the crust occurring. Something's moving underground that's breaking these pipes. And then I don't know if you've noticed, but there's been a lot of sinkholes, train derailments, some of them from bridges moving. There's actually been reports of bridges moving as far away as New York, Chesapeake Bay. We've had earthquakes all along the St. Lawrence Seaway. We've had sinkholes along the St. Lawrence Seaway. Places where you don't usually see this kind of stuff happening, and it seems to really be escalating. It
is indeed. And all of this made me think when I read your message about a warning that was given out by the military just a few months ago. And we're going to talk about that on the backside of this break. We have Christina Consolo, the RadChick, and more Wide Awake News Radio in just a few minutes, guys. Hang tight. Hey guys, it's Charlie McGrath with WideAwakeNews.com and Wide Awake News Radio. You know, it was 1999 when the Dow Jones first crossed the 10,000 point mark. Back then, our national debt was $6 trillion. You could buy an ounce of gold for around $250 and an ounce of silver for around $5. Now, there's a lot of folks in alternative media and mainstream media asking the question, when are we going to see the next financial crisis? Well, for myself and the folks over at Austin Rare Coin, we believe that time is now. It's called sovereign debt fiat currency crisis. Now let's review 1999, 10,000 points on the Dow, 2012, after trillions of dollars being spent, 13,000 points. We've seen our national debt explode from $6 trillion to nearly $16 trillion. Gold from $250 an ounce to over $1,600 an ounce, and silver from $5 to over $30 an ounce. Gold and silver, that is planet Earth's currency. It has been for 5,000 years. It will be for the next 5,000 years. If you have wealth you're trying to protect, I highly recommend and encourage you to call Gabe Elton and the folks over at Austin Rare Coin, 1-800-552-4109. They support alternative media. They support getting the truth out, so let's support them. Austin Rare Coin, 1-800-552-4109, or visit them online, austincoins.com.
Remember this name, Carnivora. That's CARNIVORA.com. What if I told you that this 100% pure and natural product was delivered directly to the White House at President Reagan's personal request at a time when only the president was able to obtain it? Reagan used this amazing product, Carnivora, successfully, a product derived only from nature that has the intelligence to instinctively attack abnormal cells only without harming a single normal cell, and the power to actually wake up critical immune cells from dormancy to attack foreign invaders that don't belong in our bodies. Carnivora is now obtainable by anyone who wants to get healthy and stay that way. Call 1-866-VENUS-FLY and protect yourself with 17 naturally occurring compounds that will unleash powerful immune defense. That's 1-866-VENUS-FLY. Call 1-866-VENUS-FLY and get your Carnivora today. Visit carnivora.com.
Will 2012 bring the Mayan end of world or the global banking collapse? In 2007, one man, Mike Dillard, made 5 predictions which forecasted the 2008 economic crisis and the pending Eurozone collapse. This week, Mike unleashes 3 brand new, shocking, must-watch videos with predictions for the coming year. www.the3videos.com. Over the past year, Mike Dillard has helped thousands of ordinary people create and recover wealth by tapping into the black box investing strategies the big banks don't want you to know about. www.the3videos.com. As the European banking system implodes and governments collapse at breakneck speeds, the next 12 months will be the most anticipated and important months in modern human history. This will make 2008 look like a walk in the park. Everyone will be affected. Go to www.the3videos.com now. Learn how to prepare your family and prosper during the global financial collapse.
Guys, welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. I'm Charlie McGrath, your host. Christina Consolo is our guest tonight, the RadChick. Christina, you're still broadcasting weekly, correct?
Yes, we're on twice a week. Nuked Radio is on UCY TV now, and then I upload the shows to YouTube. They get shared all over Facebook, and we're actually covering this sinkhole theory We did half of a show. We did half of it on Tuesday, and we're going to do the other half tomorrow. And yesterday's show was just background information about who all the players were, information about the BP spill, because, it did happen a while ago. So much has happened since then. A lot of people have forgotten, how devastating that spill was, and some of the things that geologists and oil people were warning about at the time was that they were worried that the Gulf of Mexico was going to sink from the amount of oil that was released. And there were estimates, they were saying, BP was saying it was 63,000 barrels a day, but people in the oil industry like Matt Simmons,
right,
who later died mysteriously in his hot tub, was saying it was closer to 120,000 barrels a day, and that was never capped, that the well that we were seeing on TV was not the actual spill. The actual spill was about 10 miles away from there.
And he isn't the only one. We remember when Simmons was found, it was, dead in his hot tub on a July, I believe it was July or August evening.
Yep, it was August.
Yeah, but since then, there's been at least one other, right? It's mysterious, miraculous, bizarre death on a potential whistleblower.
There's been 7 or 8, actually. I'd have to bring up the article to remember who all these people were. One of them, a guy disappeared who was a vet who was investigating the effects of the BP spill on swans in the Sarasota area. He disappeared, closed his practice, and no one's heard from him again. There was a guy who was trying to raise awareness doing a cross-country bike ride and was getting a lot of publicity for it, and then he was hit by a car a few miles from the end of this trip. And a couple other scientists, some of them were actually into like the biotechnology part of it, bioweapons and things like that. And we found out later after the BP spill that there was a company that was run by a guy named Craig Venter who has ties into Sandia Labs, which is a division of Lockheed Martin, and they have quite a bit of experience in not only detonating nukes inside of salt domes, but in depositing radioactive material in salt domes. And he actually created a synthetic form of bacteria that they were testing on the Mercando well, and they injected it into the well prior to drilling to help the oil expand.
Right.
And what this bacteria does is it multiplies rapidly, and it's created to survive in very harsh environments and in hot or cold or very dark environments. And it had never been tested outside of a lab before. They shot this into the well, and then that just happens to be the well that explodes, cracks the ground all over the place, that they have an extraordinary difficult time capping, if that well was ever even capped. And, we don't know what that stuff has done underground since then. And then they've sprayed, all kinds of core exit, which is basically like a food for the oil microbes to feast on.
To break it up. And they're still spraying.
There's so much complexity to this problem. And now DHS has been brought onto the scene of the sinkhole, but DHS has called in 7 government agencies, and they're also bringing in people from Sandia for their expert opinions, and they're looking for people who have expertise in the Cynthia and in core exit too. So I'm wondering if they think that maybe that's eaten through the bottom of some of these salt domes, but that area is expanding, and on a daily basis, it's getting worse. It started out at like 3 bubbling sites, then it was 30. Then last week they reported they're now seeing bubbling, and it's not just bubbling, the water is like boiling in some of these bayous 4.5 miles away. But a senator came out 2 days ago and said that they're seeing the same thing happen in Lake Pinoir, which is an area in the 80s that had a salt dome collapse, and that's about 80 miles away from this sinkhole location. So we could be talking about a very broad area that this is affecting.
Well, and I'm dropping into chat right now a story that, like I said, it sparked my memory when this sinkhole thing occurred, and this other information that you sent me earlier today. But there was a lot of hype just a few months ago, July and August, of the military giving a warning to coastal dependents. Do you remember this?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, it was first reported on John Moore's program, and what I remember about it, what sparked my memory about it was the coastal evacuations that are the dependents were called in and told to be prepared to bug out at a moment's notice. And I listened to the old interview. I just dropped it into chat. It's about 30 minutes long. And John Moore is, he's trying to tie it to Narubu or whatever. But it strikes me as when the sinkhole occurred and this information you're bringing, it strikes me as very unusual that all of a sudden, and it isn't all of a sudden, it's an ongoing, but all of a sudden it does seem to be escalating. And not only, are you talking about, this material bubbling up through the swamps and the bayous, and which I believe you believe there's radon and other potentially harmful. Shoot, are you kidding me? We're done with segment 2 already. I want to get into this. I want to get into not only what's happening there, but if you follow up the Mississippi, North Dakota, South Dakota has been having some weird seismic activity as well. Of course, the oil companies say it has nothing to do with fracking, but let's get into that on the backside of this break. Guys, hang tight. Christina Consuelo, the RadChick, will be right back with us on Wide Awake News Radio in just a few minutes. Hey guys, it's Charlie McGrath with Wide Awake News Radio and WideAwakeNews.com. In 2007, 26 million Americans were on food stamps. 2012, the numbers exploded to over 46 million people relying on the government to put food on the table. Debt's out of control across the planet, pushing us towards a financial Armageddon. Talk of war seems to fill every newscast. And disasters, both man-made and natural, seem to be on the rise. Can you think of a better time in history than now to be prepared for the unexpected? Guys, I want to introduce you to our new partners in alternative media. BuyEmergencyFoods.com. BuyEmergencyFoods.com offers the best kind of emergency food, Legacy Premium, with the largest variety available in the freeze-dried food industry. Each meal is packed for freshness in an individual nitrogen-flushed Mylar pouch. The meal is then sealed in a stackable, heavy-duty plastic container that's easy to store, easy to transport, and won't be damaged by water or rodents. So if you're worried about food inflation, economic crisis, unemployment, natural disaster, then don't delay. Prepare your family now. Visit our new partners in alternative media, BuyEmergencyFoods.com. Give them a call at 888-543-7345, or again, visit them at BuyEmergencyFoods.com.
You're listening to Charlie nationwide and worldwide on the Internet, on the Rinse Radio Network.
Are you in debt, having sleepless nights, sick of constant creditor phone calls? Want a guaranteed solution? Become a member of DebtorManagementSystems.com and we will take all of your creditor calls. That's right, we'll manage all of your creditor calls. Go to DebtorManagementSystems.com and join up today. Or call 855-332-8782. That's 855-332-8782. Join today and take the stress out of your life. Are you having trouble paying your mortgage? Maybe your mortgage loan is upside down or in foreclosure. Maybe the bank already foreclosed on you. Don't be a victim of bank fraud. Fight back. Here's how. Go to InspectorAudit.com and find out the truth about your loan. Did you know that 78% of the loans in the last 10 years violated consumer credit laws? We should not let the banks get away with that kind of fraud. Go to InspectorAudit.com or call 855-373-4948. That's 855-373-4948. And start fighting bank fraud today.
Heart-related health problems affect millions of people each year. Maybe you're one of the many who suffer from issues related to angina pain, high blood pressure, congestive heart failure, unbalanced cholesterol, irregular heartbeat, or clogged arteries. There is a solution that doesn't involve expensive prescription drugs that only mask the problem and leave you with horrible side effects. If you are ready to live your life free of sickness, pain, and fear, live your life with increased vitality, energy, and youthfulness, and experience experience your body healing itself, then you're ready for Heart and Body Extract from Healthy Hearts Club. Heart and Body Extract has a 23-year proven track record of using certified organic herbs that make up an excellent formula to balance and support the heart and circulatory system. In as little as 2 weeks, you can feel amazing results when your 2-month supply of Heart and Body Extract today. Call 1-866-295-5305 or go to hbextract.com.
Guys, welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. I'm Charlie McGrath. Your host, Christina Constello, is our guest. We are talking about very strange events occurring in the South, but it's not only in the South. And you know, the first segment we were pointing out that, you know, we talk about disasters. We talk about what happened with the BP Gulf oil spill. A lot of people think it's still ongoing. You know, the Hopi prediction's right that the seas are going to turn black. But that disaster is still ongoing. I mean, it's ongoing. We just don't get to hear about it ever. And the relationship between that disaster and now these sinkholes and this bubbling of the bayous, which could be radon. Christina's going to talk here in a minute about this very bizarre sulfur odor a lot of people have been reporting. In fact, she just told me during the break that she called the authorities to investigate this. And then going back even, you know, you would ask me earlier, or you had said earlier in the break that a lot of people want to know from you if you think Fukushima was completely and totally a staged event or done purposefully. And what was your response to that? I mean, what is your response to that now? Because it seems ridiculous, right? I mean, you have a giant earthquake, 9 point or whatever, and it floods out that plant, and all the so-called backups fail, and we have this disaster. But what is your take on it now?
Well, I read everything that I come across, even if it's related to that. And for a long time, like I didn't really talk about it because, I mean, there was enough evidence that it was bad enough that it is, let alone if it was done on purpose. And it's hard to believe that anyone would be even capable of manufacturing that type of disaster, seen now, especially what Japan is dealing with in terms of sickness and the thyroid reports that have been coming out about kids in northern Japan. Half of them are showing disease of the thyroid around Fukushima, and the more information, and some of it came from sources like MIT, showing that prior to the Tohoku earthquake that there were large circular disturbances in the ionosphere that could have been HAARP directed at the faults. I came across some information that there was an Israeli trawler parked over the fault that ruptured 2 months before the quake, and then Israel also had a security team, and this was verifiable, that went into the Fukushima plant and installed security cameras a few months before the plant blew up. And at that time, you know, they could have easily installed Stuxnet into their computer system just by putting a jump drive in the control room, and they had access to the control room. And there's been some people who've outlined some very meticulous research about this, everywhere from the earthquake not being a normal earthquake. It was missing a P wave at the beginning, which signified that it could have been an explosion underground. And then if you saw what happened at that fault for months afterward, I mean, it was amazing how many quakes occurred in that area. Jim Stone is one of the people that has reported on this. Loren Murray has reported on this. And seeing now what's happening in the United States, seeing what could happen if something went off like the New Madrid fault and the dozens of nuke plants that we have in the area, you know, I can't help but wonder what if, we nuke Japan. I mean, we've done it twice before, to see what the effect would be of a multiple meltdown scenario and the effect it would have on the population, the sickness that would arise out of that, the effectiveness of the evacuation zones, the effect on the wildlife, on the food supply, the reaction of the people, and just study that. I mean, Japan's isolated. It's an island. Maybe they didn't intend for as much fallout to get over here, or for people to get on this the way that they have and try to figure out what's going on. But, there is a possibility, and it becomes almost stronger, week to week from what I'm seeing happen now. And the lack of response or help from any of the international community is really concerning, especially since we still have kids that are living around that plant.
Yeah, or even the coverage. I mean, there's very, very few. I know Jeff Rentz is he's dogged in keeping to continue to cover this, and I know you are as well. But man, this is, I mean, for the media, for the average person that you would walk up and talk to, that's ancient history. It doesn't, it's like the BP oil disaster. It's ancient history. They're just not talking about it at all.
Well, it's never brought up in the news. And the U.S. government has a history of studying things like that. And they've studied their populations in various ways. In fact, there was a sociologist that published some research last week that the Army sprayed residents of low-income communities in St. Louis in the 60s with radioactive material and then tracked the sickness.
Crazy.
Did you hear about that story?
Yeah, I did. And you're right. I mean,
we experiment on populations all the time, sometimes even our own. But, the biggest telling thing is we nuked Japan in the past.
Yeah, we've done it before. We absolutely. I did just put in the chat a minute ago, probably about the time that I'm speaking. It'll be coordinated time-wise. But this story of North Dakota, earthquakes happening up there, and they're calling them minor. I think they're in the caliber of less than 4.0, but this is in an area that's not used to seismic activity, and it just happens to be the earthquake, which registered in a magnitude of 3.3 according to blah blah blah, took place Friday. So this would have been late last week. Of course, this is happening right in Williston. I mean, this is in Williston, North Dakota, right where it's the heart of the Bakken Reserve, and they are fracking the living hell out of that region in order to pump this oil to accessible depths. And now we're starting to see seismic activity there. But so if you draw a line, right, that whole the whole heartland, there's this increased activity. Seismic activity, as well as what you're reporting, which is just bizarre sinkholes and off gassing of one thing or another. And you would wanted to make sure we talked about the sulfur emissions, the sulfur smells that people are reporting. Is that? I mean, that's broader than just the South, right?
Right. Well, we had noticed it in my area about 2 months ago. And in fact, one day my boyfriend was driving back here from work, and across about a 30-mile stretch from Dearborn to Pontiac, Michigan, you could smell sulfur really strong, like someone had just set off fireworks. And when he told me about it, I said, you know what, that's funny, because the night before I smelled it when I walked out to the car to get something. And then we started mentioning it to people. Other people were saying in the area they were noticing it. And when I put out some information about it on Facebook, because it can be a precursor to a large earthquake, and this has been documented since the 1700s, the strong smell of sulfur prior to large earthquake events like the San Francisco quake, the New Madrid quake sequence, and other earthquakes around the world, in Germany, in China, in Japan. Even though USGS doesn't use that as criteria to predict where an earthquake might occur, I was concerned enough about it that I called them, and they actually had me speak to the National Response Center, the NRC, FEMA called me. I mean, there were a lot of agencies that were interested in this and took all the information. No one ever got back to me about it, but since then I've seen other people posting they're smelling it in West Virginia, North Carolina. There's been reports of the ground shaking around Charlotte a few days ago, and then there was a very strong sulfur smell being reported all along the LA basin after a large earthquake swarm that occurred just south of there in Brawley, California,
all right, well,
south of the Salton Sea.
Let's hold it there for a minute, and we're going to talk potential outcomes and potential things to be on the lookout for not only with radiation levels across the country, as you usually give us our report, but these other events as well. We're going to be back with Christina Consolo, more Wide Awake News Radio in just a few minutes. Hang tight. WideAwakeNews.com and Wide Awake News Radio. 2%. This is the number that the federal government wants you to believe represents inflation in our country. 2%. Now, maybe that's true if we back out necessity items we need just to live, such as energy and food. But the fact of the matter is, I don't have to tell you food prices are on the increase. They have been for years, and it's going to continue to rise. The real question is, are we getting better quality food for this increase in price? According to the CDC, the answer is no. A March 2012 report shows foodborne illnesses are on the rise. Guys, we are so lucky to have the folks at SeedsNow.com as sponsors of Wide Awake News Radio. Not only are Chris and the folks at SeedsNow.com offering thousands of non-GMO, non-hybrid, non-Frankenfood seeds that can go out the door today, they're looking into the future as well and offering outstanding values on things such as the Mini Mega Seed Bank with over 48,000 seeds and the Mega Super Survival Seed Kit with over 58,000 seeds. SeedsNow.com is a sponsor of Wide Awake News Radio because they care about alternative media and they care about getting the truth out. So let's support those that support alternative media. And if you go there today and put in the promo code WideAwake10, you will receive an instant 10% discount on all your orders. So please visit SeedsNow.com and use the promo code WideAwake10 to receive your discount.
If you're taking 1, 2, 5, or more nutritional supplements, please stop. Simplify your supplementation with Bio Superfood, the most advanced nutritional whole food supplement you can buy. Men, women, children, even Olympic athletes the world over have discovered Bio Superfood from BioAge.com. And now take just one nutritional supplement instead of many. The Bio Superfood formulas are whole food products composed with 4 of the most nutrient-dense algae found on Earth. Bio Superfood for the brain helps with focus, memory, clarity, and mood. If you can increase brain health, the rest of the body is a no-brainer. Bio Superfood has 0 toxicity and is safe for you and your family. Learn more and order your Bio Superfood formulas at BioAge.com, spelled BIOAGE.com, BioAge.com, or call 877-288-9116. That's 877-288-9116. BioAge, the age of advanced organics.
Are chemtrail geoengineering programs changing our weather and destroying our environment? Why in the world are they spraying?
They want to create a storm in the southeast, then they'll start engineering out over the North Pacific. That's where the tragedies will be.
Find out why critics are calling Why in the World Are They Spraying the most important film that is revolutionizing the environmental movement.
It's just going to get worse until the point where we're not going to be able to grow anything at all unless it's a Monsanto genetically modified, abiotic stress resistant seed.
Why in the world are they spraying? New international version with languages available from around the world. For 1 month, Rinse listeners receive free shipping. Go to the banner on the front of the Rinse website and click on the link for more info.
It's all about money, and weather is another form of commoditizing, a way the Central Command Group can commoditize another form of our life.
Why in the world are they spraying?
And if you control the weather, you're going to control the planet. It's that simple.
Make a promise, take a vow, trust your feelings, it's easy now. Understand the voice within and feel a change already beginning. Oh, won't you tell me again? Oh, can you feel it? Oh, won't you tell me again tonight?
That's 877.
Make a promise, take a vow, trust your feelings, it's easy now. Understand the voice within and feel a change already beginning. Oh, won't you tell me again? Oh, can you feel it? Oh, won't you tell me again tonight?
Wide Awake News Radio. Christina, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I had to do some quick restarting with the computer and I had to shut down my system, and it 3 seconds ago is when it fired back up. So we continue with Christina Consolo, also known as the RadChick, talking about these very strange events going on. But you know what? I was remiss at the beginning of the program because usually I ask you to tell us about the radiation levels vis-a-vis this jet stream and Fukushima and in the oceans, in the fish. Every time you come on, we seem to have new information that points to a continued escalation of radioactive levels across the country and across the planet. Do you have anything new to report on that level other than what we've already covered?
Yeah, we've detected radiation now in California almonds, dates, oranges, Florida grapefruits. In fact, the almonds were actually found by Japan because they imported them from California and found them to be radioactive and loaded with cesium. And these kinds of things, like we've talked about before, because of bioaccumulation and biomagnification, they're only going to get worse with time, and certain foods will have more of them than others. Right. So, I mean, no better time than to be an advocate for your own health and look into supplements and things like that. I prefer just to eat really healthy so I don't have to take a lot of vitamins and other stuff.
Right.
And just gauge, how you're feeling and what you're doing and make that a priority instead of relying on like doctors to give you medicines to fix all this stuff, because that seems to be all that they're interested in doing.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that during the break, that the treating a symptom is certainly a very long and arduous road once you start going down that path, as a lot of you know. That I've been dealing with asthma-type symptoms for a long time, and it seems that the more I get away from Western medicine and the more I get into holistic remedy, then I feel much, much better, and it seems to have a longer-term effect and really reduce the symptoms. And, the one or two times you were on, we were saying that it very well could be related to an increase. I mean, some of the symptoms I was having was an increase in radiation levels.
Uh-huh.
And, and who knows? I mean, we just don't know. That's the problem is, depending where you live, well, as far as radiation goes, it doesn't matter. But depending where you live across the South, you could be being bombarded by radiation in the jet stream, or, who knows what's bubbling out of the Gulf of Mexico or inland.
Yeah, but your body has a really incredible ability to heal a lot of that damage, even damage from being exposed to radiation. And Arnie Gunderson was interviewed by Tom Ritter last weekend, and he had asked them that too, like, where do you move now? Considering all the stuff that's going on, leaking nuke plants everywhere, all the things that have been dumped in the oceans and now are reaching their life expectancy in terms of the containers that they were put in.
Yeah.
Originally, we've dumped just hundreds of thousands of barrels of nuclear waste all over in our oceans, and we've sunken, nuclear subs, and so is Russia, and it's really a mess what we've created, and your body can fix a lot of that damage if you stay on top of your health and make sure you get enough sleep and you support your immune system and keep that as healthy as possible.
No doubt about it, and the sleep being the biggest one. That a good friend of mine, a good friend of the program, told me a lot. This is what she does for a living. I mean, she is a nutritionalist, and she's very concerned about not only the nutrition that you take in, but the giving your body enough time to repair itself, especially as we get older, that is paramount. I mean, you need to get your sleep, and I'm not talking, at 2:00 in the morning and sleep until noon. I'm talking get to bed when your body's telling you it's time to go to bed, usually 9, 10 o'clock at night, and getting 7-8 hours that you need in order to regenerate and repair yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really important to stay on top of those things, and also just to have an awareness about some of these things that are going on are not meant to scare people, but just to make them aware, because there's such a lack of information, of real information coming out in this area of the sinkhole, even, and the people around there, and they're starting
What is the official line? What is the official line on the sinkhole?
The official line is that they're drilling relief wells, and they're hoping to deal with the situation by relieving the gas that's building up in the salt domes and in the aquifers surrounding the salt domes. But we don't know to what extent the groundwater has been contaminated by this one salt dome that's leaking in particular, which contains not only 51% diesel organics, but it has also been filled with radioactive waste. And so we don't know where exactly that's going to end up. And that's kind of their situation that they're taking right now, is that they're expanding their efforts in drilling relief wells and trying to ascertain how many areas are leaking because of the bubbles that are being reported in areas as far as 80 miles away. So they're expanding it to a regional thing instead of just a local thing in terms of what they're watching.
Mm-hmm.
But, they have meetings that they were supposed to have. 7 agencies in Texas Brine were all invited to a meeting that was put together by the locals so they could get updated, because they hadn't had an update in 6 weeks, and nobody showed up to this meeting except Texas Brine. And since then they scheduled another meeting where they did show up, and that was the position that they were taking was that they're just staying on top of it, and they keep sharing information as much as possible. But the mandatory evacuation that included, I believe, 150 homes is still in effect.
What is
that may or may not be expanded.
All right. Well, in about 4 minutes or so here, and I just dropped a link in, guys in chat about the sinkhole situation. Christina, the things we've talked about, the ongoing Gulf oil spill disaster, potentially being part of this, the off-gassing of radon and this bizarre, what was the other sulfur? Yeah, the bizarre sulfur emissions. The seismic activity, like I said, all the way through the heartland, and obviously in Louisiana with the sinkhole. What is? Worst case. I know you're not trying to scare anybody. You mentioned that to me during the break. But what is the worst case scenario of what we're looking at with this bizarre activity, coupled with the fact, that as you work with Moore, he's talking about military letting people know a few months ago, be prepared to get out of this area. I mean, what is the worst case scenario that you guys are talking about in this field?
Well, it used to be just people in California needing to have, bug out bags living along the San Andreas Fault, but I think we all need to have them now, even if you live in the Midwest. We've had a lot of earthquakes, just a 5.1 in Ontario overnight, mm-hmm. which is really unusual. Just having a plan, so if something does happen, you know how to get in touch with your family, especially if you have like teenagers that I do. Everybody's all over the place. They're, at school and different places. If your cell phones don't work, if you can't get a hold of each other, that you have a place that you can meet up, that you have a list of items or you have a bag packed ready to go in case you do have to leave for a while, and that you have maybe a long-term plan for where you could stay out of state with relatives if something happened in your area where you couldn't be there for a while. And, it's going to be more of a concern if you live around a nuke plant or you live around a fault zone. And for right now, if you live along any of the southern states with what's going on, that you just have a plan, because talking about it right now is a lot easier than trying to figure it out after it happens. And these are all things, survival basics or instincts that like everybody should be taught in school anyway. Mm-hmm. And you only learn about this if you take like a survival class. But being prepared and things like that, if you have relatives that have been through any kind of war situation, they usually have a pantry in their house with 2 years of food. And that's how I grew up, having two parents that were in World War II. And that was kind of normal for me. But, we've just kind of been placated to think you can go to the store anytime you want and buy anything you need.
That's
and most people don't realize with the is it GTI, where they keep only things on the shelves for like 3 days?
Yeah, that's right.
In order to keep like the prices level and so forth, supply and demand. There's only 3 days worth of stuff in stores.
And it went 1,500 miles to get there. They do turn that inventory on average every couple of days. So and you're right. Most people just think that it comes from a store. And I've talked on the program. I think in regions of the country, people are far more dependent on that than others. But the majority of the people don't have any kind of supply, any kind of preparation in their home for a disaster, natural or otherwise. So I couldn't agree with that assessment more. I'm looking at this. What we had is 7.0 in Columbia just the other day, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Crazy things, Christina. Where can I hear your program real quick before we run out of time?
On UCY TV, it's on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And also I can follow you on YouTube at iChica4X, correct?
Yep.
Did I say that right? iChica4X.
iChica X4.
Oh, X4. I transversed it. Christina, thank you very much. I look forward to getting you on again next month to give us this awesome news, I guess. Terrifying. I mean, it's important we know of. It is scary stuff, and I do appreciate you devoting so much time in keeping us informed. Christina Consolo, thank you very much. Guys, stay tuned. We're going to be back. You betcha. We will be back, hopefully, with no more technical issues here in about 6 minutes. And it's going to be an interesting hour. Freeman Burt, always full of great information and insight. We'll be back in a few minutes. Hang tight.
Get me in a lot of trouble. I just created a free video presentation at 123rens.com that exposes the electricity monopolies and government agencies for what they really are: incompetent, lying crooks that are counting on your ignorance and fear to keep your power bills criminally high. Some have called this a conspiracy. Others have called it a cover-up, and you'll be shocked to find out how deep the conspiracy goes. My video at 123rens.com exposes the truth and shows you the secret of how I beat them and how you can beat them too. Watch the controversial video that thousands of other smart patriots have already seen in the last 3 months. Go to 123rens.com and discover one weird trick to slash your power bill and protect your home. Go watch my video now at 123rens.com before they force me to shut it down. Again, that's 123rense.com.
Are you struggling to reclaim your health? Let me share my story quick. My nightmare of chronic fatigue, PTSD, and autoimmune issues cost me everything. A bankruptcy, loss of home, even my wife walked out on me with no hope in sight. A miracle happened after hitting my lowest point. I discovered ion and RNA drops. It literally saved my life. I want to share my story with you and offer you a trial-size mini bottle of RNA drops. Visit www.rnafreemini.com. Again, that's www.rnafreemini.com. It's time to take your power back now. You can also check out our ad online at rents.com. RNA drops.
You're listening to the Rents Radio Network, nationwide and worldwide on the net and at rents.com.